Hello and welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be kind of on the basic side. So for some people it's going to be like a duh type video, but I also know that for some people this is not really a duh type of thing. What I'm talking about is when you're communicating with people, you don't yell at them. And with the holidays coming up and the added stress of being around families and friends during the holidays, I thought about different ways to talk about relationships and how to handle relationships. And I was reflecting back on when I was working in DOC, and I remember this one particular inmate that I was working with. And he came into my office and he had complaints. He had a very long sentence, and he would talk to his mom on the telephone, and his mom would start crying on the telephone, and he couldn't understand why his mom was crying on the telephone. And so we broke down what was occurring on the telephone. Turns out, before his mom would start crying, he would start yelling at her. And because of his issues, because of his difficulties, because of his lack of empathy, he was unable to put together, hey, if I yell at people, they cry. So it was like when I had to explain to him, if you yell at people, people cry. And perhaps if you don't want your mom to cry, you should stop yelling at her. I thought that this was something that was common sense. Turns out that for some people that have difficulties, it is not so common. So that's what I'm going to cover today. If you want to get along with people, if you want to have good relationships in your life for whatever reason, for attachment reasons, because you value that person, because they're helpful for you, whatever it is, please stop yelling at them if you want them to stay in your life. What I had this particular person do was an experiment. What he would do was when he started talking to his mom and his mom would start agitating him with some foolishness, what he would call foolishness, he would then start getting agitated and start yelling. And then it generally devolved into her, crying on the telephone, him being frustrated, and then him hanging up the telephone. He just didn't have the ability to understand that his behaviors had this impact on his mom. And then I had him create an experiment. So the experiment is that the next time he talked to his mom on the telephone and she started agitating him, he would then approach in a different way. So instead of getting mad and yelling back, he would step back and he would say something along the lines of, I hear you, Mom. I'm sorry, Mom. Whatever it was that was appropriate at that point. What he would not do is his past behavior of yelling at her when she would start to get upset. And so when he came back to my office after trying this experiment, he came back very, very happy with himself that the experiment had worked. His mom did not start crying on the telephone with him, and that he was able to finish a conversation, get her needs met, and that she had that closeness with him where she did not have a telephone call that resulted in crying. And he was able to get his needs met, which was to continue to have this one close relationship that he had in his life. So it occurred to me as I was sitting and thinking about this today and about what video to do, not everybody has that intuition that if you want to keep people in your life, you should not dump your emotions on them. I've heard people out here that say, well, if they love me, they're going to put up with it. The thing is, yeah, they might put up with it, but they're going to have a bunch of other people around that are going to be telling them that they should not put up with it. So now they're not only having to fight for you, they're having to fight to continue the relationship with you because everybody else around them sees how damaging that relationship is to that particular person. So if you want to continue to have a healthy relationship with somebody, you really cannot yell at them. You cannot give them reasons to feel badly for interacting with you. You cannot make them feel that they are being your punching bag, your verbal punching bag. All those different things are going to make it where it is extremely difficult to have you in their lives. And as you've left the prison system, as you're back out in the community, you need as many people on your team as possible. You don't want to alienate people, especially over something as dumb as simply yelling at people. So one of the things that some people find helpful in order to stop yelling at people is something called the stop technique. So what this is when you start feeling that you're getting agitated, just like this particular inmate did, is he stopped what he was doing. He was able to recognize the signs that he was starting to get agitated. He could hear his mom starting to get agitated. So in his mind, he was able to say, stop. The next thing that he did was he would take a deep breath. Or the other thing that you can do is take a step back, whatever it is. So you're stopping, you're taking a breath, taking a step back. And then the next thing that you're doing is you're observing. You're figuring out what's going on. You're figuring out what situation is in front of you. Then after doing that and observing your situation, then you proceed mindfully. You proceed with a decision in place that you want to resolve this problem, that you want to continue to have a relationship with this person, that you want to not have this person start crying, that you don't want there to be a big argument. So that's one of the things for some people that struggle with understanding their relationships with other people, to just step back and look at what is causing these bad interactions. Is you yelling at them making them cry? They're not going to stop crying because you're yelling at them. You cannot yell at them to stop crying. All that you can do is stop yelling at people, and perhaps you can try that experiment and see if they stop crying. I know that this is a very basic video, and that for some people, they're going to be like, I can't believe you posted a video as simple as this, that people should stop yelling at people if they want them to not cry. But I have learned in my career that sometimes the simplest things still need to be addressed. So I might get some unlikes on this because of the simplicity of it, but I still feel like it's an important message to get out there. So if you do like it. If you don't, there will be other videos and more complex topics, but this one I do feel like it needs to be said. All right, take care.